Hello and good morning. So today what we're working on is we're reviewing the area of polygons. And if you recall, when we're looking at something like a parallelogram, if we lifted up this little piece of this triangle and shifted it right to here, we would make a square. Here's our straight line and it would come right back over here. So all we have to do, or a rectangle, all we have to do is use our measurements and do exactly the same way as we would a area for a square or a rectangle, which is length times width. So we have our 25 and we're going to multiply it by 20. Well, 25 times 2 is going to give us 50 and we add our 0 and that's going to give us our answer. So go ahead and figure out your answer. Exercise 2 is the exact same way. We're just going to multiply 22 times 11 and we will have our answer. When we're looking at exercise 3, we need to remind ourselves that when we're finding the area of a triangle, it is half the area of a square or rectangle. So this part right here is what we're looking for. We're looking for half of the entire square or the entire rectangle. So let's look back at our problem. And our problem is 10 times 16. So that would be the entire area. And then we cut it in half because we only want that triangle piece. We're not taking the entire square or the entire rectangle. Okay, this one throws you a little bit because what they've done is they've included the missing part here. Instead of drawing the 14 for the height right here, they've just drawn it outside of the actual triangle. But the same rule applies. We're going to multiply our 25 times our 14, and then we're going to divide that in half. Okay, for exercise 5, we're no longer finding the area of a triangle. Instead, we're going back to finding the area of a trapezoid. And if you recall, it's a little bit different because we've got that triangle part going on around here. And then we also have the actual height of it. So we're going to add our two bases together, which would be 15 plus 6. And then we're going to divide that part into half, just like we do a triangle. And then we're going to multiply it by our height. So if we look over here, it would be 6 plus 15. And this is one of those trickier ones. When we multiply this, the 6 plus 15 and we divide it by 2, it becomes 21 over 2. When we cut that in half, it becomes 10.5. Well, then we have to multiply it by 10. And it's a little trickier only because when we multiply anything by 10 or 100 or 1,000, the only thing we have to do is move the decimal point. So we move our decimal point over and our answer becomes 105. And exercise 6, oh no, there are fractions. Well, there are fractions. So we can either divide it or multiply it by 1.5 or 1.5, or we can just convert it over to a fraction. Either way, it's going to be fine. We can do this. One of the things that I love about 6th grade math is that usually they're really kind to you with fractions. So when I look at this, even though I looked at it and went, there's fractions, now I can look at what the fractions are. This is a half and this is a half. And when I'm adding two halves together, it makes a whole. So I have 1 plus 2 is 3 plus a whole plus this whole right here, and that's going to make 4. 4 divided by 2 is going to give us 2, and then we just have to multiply that by 3 to find our area. And here again, we're finding the area of a trapezoid. We have our 6, our 7, and our 8. And when we look at it, we can just kind of see that those are two triangles put together. And that's why we're going to use a similar formula. Okay, so we're going to remind ourselves that our formula for a trapezoid, the area of it, is going to be base plus base divided by 2 times the height. So here's our base. We have 6 plus 8 divided by 2. So 6 plus 8 is going to give us 14. When we divide that by 2, it's going to give us 7, and we multiply our 7 times our 7, and that will be our answer. Okay. Okay, so this is for exercise number 8, and we are finding the area of this figure. And this time, they've taken out this portion right here. We're not going to include it. We're only going to include what's here. but we have to figure out what's missing because what they've given us is a perfect rectangle and they've taken away the part that's missing and said, okay, don't include that in your calculation. So bear in mind, my drawing is not going to be as exact as the other in Big Ideas. And the other thing is too, is that when you're looking at mine, I can't just copy and paste it. So you got to kind of keep that in mind that it's not going to look exact, but let's just kind of figure this out. If we were doing a normal rectangle, what we would do is we would take length times width. So let's do that to start because what they're showing us here is they're showing us that this portion right here isn't included, but we still have to use it to get our first portion of our area in order to exclude it. So we're going to add or multiply those two things together first, and then we'll subtract this portion out. So when I look at my two sides over here, I have 7 plus 6, and that's going to equal 13. And I'm going to multiply that times 8 because that's how I get normal length times width. So 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. I carry my 2. 8 times 1 is going to give me 8, and 2 is 10. So now I've got the entire portion of the rectangle. Now I have to subtract this portion out because that portion is not included. Now what's left that is part of this is that I've got my 8 for my base. So I know that all the way across here is 8. So I'm going to multiply that 8 times my 7. So 8 times 7 is going to give us 56. But when I do a triangle, because this shape is actually in the shape of a triangle, I have to divide it by 2. So 2 goes into 5 2 times. And I'm left with 16. And 2 goes into 8, or 2 goes into 16 8 times. And so now I have to subtract this 28 from my 104 because I'm not going to use that portion. So I change that. And I've got 14 take away 8 is going to give me 6, and 9 take away 2 is going to give me 7. And there's my answer. Okay, we have this weird shape, but when I look at it right from the start, I can almost start to see another shape that's in here. And what I see this bottom portion is a rectangle. So I'm always looking for the easiest way to do things. And I know how to do a rectangle, so I'm going to start there. And you're in luck because at this time I use the blocks. So now we have, instead of me drawing, so now we have 8 times 12, which is going to give us our rectangle right here. So we're going to put our 12 down. Multiply by 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1, 8, and we're going to get 96. So this area right here is 96. Now we have to figure out this portion right up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. We're going to find the area of a trapezoid. So we're going to take our 8 plus 4, because here's our 8 for our base down here and our 4 for our base up there. We're going to divide it by 2. And we're going to multiply all of that by the 4, which is our height. So 8 plus 4 is going to give us 12, divided by 2 equals 6, and 6 times 4 is going to give us 24. So now we take our 96 and we add it into our 24, and that will be our answer. Exercise 10, if you look at it, it's almost identical to the other shape. What we have here is we have an entire rectangle right here. So we're going to do our rectangle first, which is 10 times 5. When we multiply 10 times 5, we come up with 50. And now what we need to do is we need to find out what is the area right here. What is the area in our trapezoid? So we have 10, which is what we're going to do is we're going to take, I'll do a different color. We're going to take our base plus our second base, which is 6 plus 10, and that's going to give us 16. We're going to divide that by 2, and then we're going to multiply by our height, which is 5. So 10 plus 6 is going to give us 16. When we divide that by 2, it's going to give us 8. 8 times 5 is going to give us 40, and then we take our 40 and we add it back into our 50, and that's where we get our answer. Okay, we have exercise 11. And please make sure that when you're doing these, that you're doing it with me, that you're not just watching me and waiting for me to give you an answer. Make sure you're doing it together so that you understand how to do something and that you're when you walk away from this lesson, you can do it on your own. So exercise 11, we're going to draw a polygon with the given vertices and coordinate plane. So our first given coordinates are 3 and 2. So when I look over here, I do my x first, which is 3, and then I go up 2 for my y. My second is 4 and 7. Again, I go over to the 4, and I go up to the 7. And since this is going to make a triangle, my last one is going to be 6 and 0. Let me double check. If I were doing this, it would make this shape. Okay. So exercise 12 is the same thing. You're just using the vertices. And remember, the x is what you're going to do first. The x is the horizontal, and the y is the one that goes up and down. That's the vertical, and you do that one second. So if you have a 1 and a 1, you're going to go to the 1. And I'm just going to do this first one with you, and then we're going to have you do it all on your own. You're going to go to 1 and 1, and that's it. So good luck, guys. You got this. Exercise 13 is exactly the same thing. You start with the 1, which is you go over 1, and 2, you go up 2. Ta-da! 3 is a little bit, or 14 is a little bit different. When you have a half, if you look at this, the way they've done this is they've made this 1 actually 2 squares. So half of it would be halfway between that. So you've got this. It's not going to be an issue for you. Okay, for exercise 15, what they're asking you to do is you're asking you to plot these points. We're going to plot them, and then we're going to figure out what the perimeter is in units, and then we're going to figure out what the area is in square units. So make sure you're plotting with me. We're going to go over 4, and then we're going to go up 3. And then we're going to go over 4, and we're going to go up to 7. And then we're, and then we're going to go over 9, and then we're going to go all the way up to 7, and then we're going to go over to 9, and we're going to go up to 3. So when I look at this, I can see that this makes a square. Oops, maybe. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we have our side here is 4. This side is also going to be exactly the same as 4. This is 5, and this is 5. So when we're looking for the perimeter, what we're going to do is we're going to add all 4 sides, and that is going to give us our perimeter. When we're looking for our area, we're going to multiply one of these 2 sides by the other 2 sides. And remember, our area for perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Our area is going to equal length times width. Okay, so you fill in the gaps and it should be pretty easy math. Exercise 16 is exactly what we just did. Exactly. So please go back to review if you're not sure how to do it, but just plug those numbers in. Area is length times width. Perimeter is length plus width plus width. You got this, guys. You've got this. Exercise 17, you've got this. When I look at the 11 and the 11 and all it is another rectangle, you got this. Exercise 18, area and perimeter of a rectangle. You've got this. And we're done. We're at 14 minutes and you guys rocked it. And today's a great day in math. You guys have an awesome day and I'll see you soon.